Okay, morning guys. Working on the spindle parts again today. I've got the spindle disassembled on the Sheldon again, you know, one step forward, two steps back. Wanted to rebuild the lock nut that goes on the back. And this is the nut that we've talked about before. I said I was going to replace it. This one's really pretty grungy. So I've torn it apart to take dimensions. I've pulled the spindle back out because I'm going to use it as my gauge for threads. So I'm not going to show a whole lot. I'm not going to show any of this turning probably. So I thought I'd show you my little drawing here. If we can kind of look at it, hopefully everything's in focus and I've got it in frame for you. We'll go over it very quickly. OD on it is 2.3 inches. Length of it is 1 5/16 inches, and I started out drawing length in imperial just because that's what it was. 1.3125 is probably what it converts to. We've got a 1/2 inch thread length inside, and we're 20 threads per inch. The internal minor dimension for the or the smaller dimension before we start threading is going to be 1.648. Other than that, that's basically all of the turning of it. We do have opposing set screws. They're both drilled 1/4 and they've got a little brass pad underneath so it doesn't mar up the spindle. And then 90 degrees from them, we've got 2 1/4 inch spanner wrench holes, or spanner wrench. Yeah, I guess they're holes, but they don't go all the way through. About 20 thousandths deep is what they are. So I'm just going to go and get to turning on it. As far as disassembling the spindle again, I didn't have to disassemble the underdrive again. If you raise the motor mount all the way up, take the belts and slide them off of the pulley on the underdrive unit, you can pull the belts far enough that you can slide everything off of the end, work the belts up over clear up over the sheaves onto this side of them. This will slide on up. That gives you enough clearance so that you can take and lift the spindle and slide it back out from the belts. So it's a tight fit, but it saves disassembling the whole underdrive. So just a little point of interest, if you run into this changing belts or something like that, with my belt setup anyway, and I think these belts are the original length belts. And of course I've tightened them up a little bit by adding that 3/8 rubber mat between the feet and the bed. So standard belts, and these belts are, what are the numbers on these? These are B53s is the belt number. And like I say, I believe those are probably original belts. I think that's the original length. I do have a motor to go on this now. I don't think I've showed that for you yet. I managed to pick up a unused motor on Facebook Marketplace. Now, supposedly this motor's never been run. It's been installed. And it's a 3-phase 1.5 horse, you know, 1750 RPM. It was wired 440 volts. So I've got to change the wiring on it. But like I say, it's been mounted. It's got mounting bolt holes on it. And it looks like it's at some point had a pulley on it, but supposedly it hadn't been run and it's good and tight. And realistically, on a 3-phase motor, you know, there's not that much that goes wrong with a 3-phase. So anyway, that's what we got. All right, well, we're just about to call it a day. This is our old ring, and this is our new ring. So I still have to drill and tap 2 holes for the locking rings. They get a little brass pad underneath, and they're drilled and tapped 1/4 to lock it in position 1. And this actually sets your preload or your end play on the spindle itself. So you lock that in, and then opposite 90 degrees from those 2 holes, there's 2 spanner wrench holes that I'll put in. They're just a 1/4 inch hole, about 2/10 deep, something like that. While I'm doing, and I'll show you, we'll put this on in a minute. While I'm doing, and I got it out, I'm going to set the spindle back up. There's the dog hole in it that is all chewed out and everything. We'll just rotate 90 degrees and we'll add another spanner wrench hole there. So while we're there, otherwise everything goes together. These are, you know, the rest of the assembly goes on. There's that shoulder that rides against the bearing itself. Then this gear goes on, and then our nut goes on. We got a real good fit there. I'm really, really happy with that. So it goes down, assuming I don't have any crap on here, it goes on, because we have already tried this. And this is actually a little bit tighter than the original nut that was on here. There it is. So that's in place real nice. Very happy with that. So rainy, cold out here, so that's going to be it for the day. I will leave this stuff. Tomorrow we'll come out and we'll finish up this nut, and we'll finish up the little dog hole in the spindle, and then we'll put this back together hopefully for the final time. So I'm going to spend about 10 minutes cleaning the lathe up at least a little bit, and then I'm going to go in where it's warm. There we go. One more piece of the puzzle almost done. All right, well, we've already got it, got our nut set up in the mill here. I've just got it set up on a couple of thin parallels. Let's go ahead and find our dimensions here. Now we're going to take and I'm going to drill all the way through for my tapped holes, quarter 20s, and we're going to use that as a reference for everything else. Now at the same time we do that, well, we'll go back and we'll drill our holes all the way through here for our spider, and then we're going to rotate it 90 degrees, use the holes we've used here, our drilled and tapped holes, as a reference plane, and then we'll just go ahead and drill our other holes the same way. Hope that makes sense. We can come over one. And that's going to be our edge. Do a visual stupid check. And then we're going to come over another quarter. 2.5. So we'll use that as our 0 now for our stupid check on that end. Okay, so there's 0 there. Let's go ahead and do the other edge just so we know. That's a 1124. Okay, so. Okay, we're going to do just a visual reference, but that looks like it's 3/4 over. We may change that a little bit, but that'll give us a reference anyway. So if we drop come back to 0, oh, we're not ready yet. Let's find our center. Okay, and we're going to use that as our center line. We come back to 0 here. And that should be our drilled and tapped holes right there. That looks pretty good, I think. So before we lose track of where we are, let's set our stop over here so we don't have to haven't got around and built our fancy little tool for these stops yet, but that'll be a project here directly. Come on. Come on. Okay. So let's go ahead and we want to pop a number 7 drill through here. Zero, 0. We just want something to start our number 7 hole in with. Okay, there's those first 2. Now, we'll just deburr this side since we're here. While we're right here, let's go on out to our number 7 hole here too. And we're going to run it all the way through because it's going to be drilled and tapped quarter 22. Do a stupid check. I think we'll be okay there. Not that way though. I wasn't going to tap these here, but I think I might go ahead and tap them. Since we've got an end stop set up, we're probably fine. Actually, we'll probably just start them through here and get threads going straight, and then we'll finish them out by hand if they don't want to tap. Let's see how they act. I guess we will do it that way. There's the first two. I wonder if we should go ahead and try and tap the other two while we're right here. All right. all in all, that looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with those. So let me grab a long bolt. And we're just going to do a visual reference for looks awful good to me. I'm going to say that's good right there. Let's do our back ones first. I think we like that. So this one's a drilled and tap hole. And this one we want a 1/4 inch. We want to go 2/10. pretty good. The way that looks, and we have 2 more. Well, that's a terrible center drill. Somebody should do something about that. All right, a little bit of deburring. And there's our new lock nut with our spider. So let's take her back over the bench. We'll deburr it real quick and see what it looks like. Here's our spindle nut. And I just lightly deburred it. I just put a stone in my little Fordham tool and reached in there and deburred the holes and threads in it. So I'm very happy with that. So I've already taken it off camera. We put a spanner hole in the other side here. This is the one that was all chewed up here. And we put a new one in here. Now the next project will be to make spanner wrenches. Whether I need one or two, I haven't measured them yet, so we don't have all these chewed up dog holes. But anyway, got threads on there just like that. So now I'll finish cleaning up the spindle parts. I can put it back together, and I think we can permanently assemble this now, with the exception of I'll take this and leave it loose until we're ready to run it. Next time I blue, I'll throw that in the bluing tanks and just make it that fancy pretty blue. But anyway, we'll get it put together here in just a bit and see how it's coming along. Next thing will be the bushings for the forward and reverse gears that mount right here on the end. That material was supposed to be here Friday, and our illustrious delivery services, in this case it was UPS, can't manage to deliver on time. So anyway, it's supposed to be here today. So that'll be the next project after that. Then while we're working on this end, we'll probably go ahead and make our little modified guard, build a pattern for that and get that put together. But anyway, we'll come back in a bit and see how we're doing. All right, well, we've got our headstock almost all the way back together. This is going to be, I think, the final time going together. Everything's set in there. We've got the belts on there, although they've got to be tensioned again. And we're here at the back end. So all we've got left to do is to put our new nut on here. And when we look around here, there was the scarfed up dog hole there. And when we rotate it around, there's our nice new dog hole that we've put in there. And everything's on there. Now I probably will have to, I still got to go back and shim these. I think you kind of read the manual and it kind of says that you just tighten them or loosen them accordingly, but I really think they need to be shimmed. So we'll see. I'll fire it up this way and see what happens. So anyway, we have this key goes in here. And then this little spacer goes on, right like that. Then our gear goes on, and there's our cutout for the dog hole there. Come on, get on there. So that sits on there, everything's captive. And then our new fancy little nut. I was just over and got a couple of long screws from my little local supplier here, and I should have gotten some brass screws for in here, but I didn't do it. That'll be for a down the road. Put this threads up there right like that, and we'll set our end play, which is probably about like that. For right now, I'll probably take the screws and brass pads that we had, which are right here. That actually is probably pretty good for end play. If we take our little brass pads that were on here before, they will set right down in here. Maybe. These were actually in from the other way, and they may be big enough that they were tapped. Oh, maybe not. Rather than force that on down in there, let's just use a set screw here. Which set screws are... These are all the same, doesn't matter. There's the first one. There's the second one. Well, that one's not going to work. That one's going to be too long. I've got, I believe, all of the major castings have been stripped and got a coat of paint on them, with the exception of I've still got the apron that I don't have a, I haven't disassembled it yet. So we'll have to do that here probably sometime this week. And I've got a few other small little ones. There's hand wheels or hand levers and stuff like that. But for the most part, well, we've got paint going back on everything and looking pretty good. I think this one will probably. There we go. So that pretty much takes care of the headstock. We can probably go ahead and tension our belts. We've, as you can tell, we've got our gearbox painted up and hung. Haven't put any of the internals back in it yet. Haven't cleaned up any of the internals yet. But there again, that'll be coming. I'll have to get a motor to fit, or a coupling to fit in the end of this motor and some Romex, and we'll run and some wire, I guess. But if we do that, we can go ahead and mount our motor underneath, run our wire and our Romex up through the back of the pan where there's a hole for it, and that will pretty much take care of most of the things that go down here on the for the underdrive. I guess there's no sense in fully tensioning those belts yet, because we're going to want to spin them a little bit. But and if we disengage our back gear, how about that? Beginning to look like a lathe. Anyway, I think that's all I got for you right now. So, comment suggestions, leave them in the comment section for me below, guys, and thanks for taking the time to watch.